Good afternoon and welcome to the third Agri Knowledge Circle of 2021. My name is Elder van den Burg and our topic of today is the poultry sector. And while we were preparing our program and the topic of today over the past weeks, we couldn't foresee a new outbreak of bird flu, avian influenza in Poland on Monday. This affects the poultry farms with flocks totaling nearly 650,000 birds. So we will discuss the challenges that this will bring for the industry. But still, there are many other aspects of this industry that we want to discuss today. If we look at the facts, Poland is the largest poultry producer and exporter in the EU. And also, the Netherlands is the biggest supplier of machinery to Poland. In 2020, the value of poultry exports from Poland to Poland in total amounted over 2.3 billion euro. So there you have it. It is an industry not to miss. And beside the challenges that we just discussed, what are the opportunities that are looming on the horizon? We will discuss these topics with several specialists from the industry, both from the Netherlands and from Poland. Johan Nap, Manager Operations of Two Sisters Storterboom in Poland. And from the Netherlands, Harmela Ros, Managing Director of Two Sisters Storterboom. Magdalena Kowalewska, Senior Analyst, Food and Agri BNP Paribas Bank. Dariusz Goszczynski, Director General of the National Poultry Council of Poland. And on location, we also have Carolien Spaans, Agricultural Counselor at the Embassy of the Netherlands. Last week, Carolien visited Poultry Processor Storterboom and part of the Two Sisters Food Group, located near Poznan in the west of Poland. Carolien, what can we expect from you today?
Thank you, Elro, and thank you very much, Michal. I'm standing here today at the factory of Storterboom. And Storterboom came to the Polish market in 2004, and now they have a market share of already 6% on the Polish market. So later on, I will be talking to Johan Nap, who is the Manager of Operations here in Poland. And he will share his experience, and in the meantime, we will also share with you some images that we will make during the factory tour as well. So we will see you back, and we will also join later for the panel discussion. So see you then. Over to the studio again.
Thank you, Carolien. And I want to mention to the audience, you can ask questions to our guests. Please send them to us in the chat, and we will address them during the conversations and during the panel discussion later on in this program. We now go to our first studio guest, Magdalena Kowalewska.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us, Senior Analyst Food and Agri at the BNP Paribas Bank. Magdalena will present the latest analysis on the poultry sector and present the challenges and the opportunities in the market.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Today I would like to discuss the current present situation on the poultry market in Poland and the overview of this very interesting sector. Poland is the biggest poultry producer and exporter in the European Union. Poultry production is also the third largest agricultural subsector in terms of the production value in Poland. And the poultry sector in Poland is one of the best performing sector in the food and agri industry, strongly expanding into foreign markets. The dominant species of the poultry primary production in Poland is chicken broiler, with 73% of the market share. In 2014, Poland became the first poultry producer in the European Union. During the last 10 years, the production volume increased by 42%. It's really huge. But in the same time, the export volume increased by 106%, which indicates a very, very dynamic development of this sector in the recent years. Export was and still is the main driver of the production growth. And it is important to say that more than half of the poultry production, Polish poultry production, is exported. On domestic market, poultry meat is mostly sold to retail and HoReCa, while in export mainly to HoReCa and to industry. That's because most of the poultry meat is exported in unprocessed form, so it's unprocessed poultry meat. The poultry sector in Poland is modern, well organized and competitive with the modern infrastructure, with a lot of capex investment. We can see it also in BNP with our cases. Poland has one of the lowest production costs in the European Union, while meeting all European very strict, very high animal welfare requirements. This is particularly important for export outside the European Union. Most popular business model in the poultry market in Poland is vertical integration, from actually feed to meat. It allows for a better organization of the production and also to accumulate the margins. We estimate that the poultry sector in Poland, in whole value chain, so from feed to production, feed production to poultry meat products, is worth 36 billion Polish zloty. In the poultry sector in Poland, the top 10 biggest players account for more than half of the production. So we can see the numbers. As I told before, more than half of the Polish poultry production is exported, mainly to European Union countries, and the value of export of only unprocessed poultry meat and offals in 2020 was 2.3 billion euros. 72% of the meat was exported to the European Union, mainly to Germany, UK, and the Netherlands. Germany has 31% of the share. The second partner is UK with 90% of share, and the third, the Netherlands, as I told. And only these three countries are responsible for more than the half of European foreign sales. Of course, in 2021, this structure will change due to Brexit, because the UK will be the extra European Union trade partner. And in this case, the Netherlands will become the second trade partner for Polish exporters. Among customers outside the European Union, Ghana, Hong Kong, and Congo have the largest share in terms of value, while Ukraine, with only 4% in 4% part share in the value of the export, also is very important, because in terms of volume, it's a third partner of Polish export and has a strategic importance in our sector. For many European countries, Poland is a poultry supplier of systemic importance. In case of the Netherlands, Poland accounts for about 20% of the poultry imported by this country, next to the Germany and Belgium. So we can see that also these three countries, Poland, Germany, and Belgium, is responsible for more than half of the import that is realized by the Netherlands. Okay, and now we should look for some issues. And one of the most important elements that is restricting the development of export outside the European Union is avian influenza, also called bird flu. This is a viral disease which is present in many European countries, including Poland, as well as worldwide. Bird flu has already appeared in Poland several times, but this year its scale was surprising for all market participants. From the beginning of the year until mid-August, there were 339 outbreaks confirmed, resulting in the need to dispose 14 million birds and causing a serious turbulences on the market. Many of these outbreaks were located in Mława and Żuromie region, which is the poultry production center in Poland, with a strong concentration of the production. In September, Poland regained its status of avian influenza-free country, but not for long. because actually a few days ago further outbreaks were confirmed, and today we also have some new outbreaks, which is quite sad for the market players. Given the coming winter season, we can probably expect further cases of this virus, which is a bad news for the sector. Of course, this situation has affected the prices of poultry products and poultry livestock in Poland. And after market turbulences related to COVID-19 at the beginning of the year, we observed an increase in poultry prices until July, when prices reached a record level of the prices, and it was more than 4 zloty per kilo. In the following weeks, we observed decreasing of the prices, which was related to the situation on the European poultry market, including an increase in the slaughterings. And although since the beginning of the year, chicken broiler livestock prices have remained above the multi-year average, the profitability of the production is still under the pressure from high feed prices. Feed is the most important cost component in livestock production, so this has a major impact on the profitability. To some extent, the increase in livestock prices has been due to increases in feed prices and the compensation, some kind of compensation for the increases along the whole value chain. And now we will go to the consumption of the poultry. And although the export is the main driver, main factor of the development of Polish poultry sector, it should be added that the market is also developing because of the increase of domestic consumption. Compared to Europeans, Poles are meat lovers, eating more meat in general than average in European Union. And the total consumption of meat in Poland is over 77 kilo per capita. And pork is still the most popular type of meat in Poland. But its consumption in the last 10 years has decreased by 3%, mainly in favor of poultry meat. Poultry meat is cheap, easy to prepare, and dietetic source of animal protein, so it is gaining in popularity, not only in Poland, of course. Over the last 10 years, the poultry consumption in Poland, not only chicken, because poultry is also turkey, ducks, has increased by 90% to over 29 kilo per capita. And we expect that in the following years, poultry consumption will be at a similar level in Poland. And thank you for your attention. And we can come to the studio.
Yeah, thanks, Magdalena, for this very interesting presentation. 10 minutes filled with information about the poultry industry. Take some water, yes, because it was an interesting speech. Maybe a few questions about what you presented. Yes, let's start with the bird flu. And what you mentioned is that it creates turbulence on the market, because the farms have to be cleared, new birds have to get in, and that brings extra costs with itself. Could you tell something about what the impact in prices will be? How do you see that?
Oh, actually, it's hard to predict what will be the impact of the bird flu for the prices, because we can really think about different scenarios. When we look for the last, let's say, season of avian influenza in Poland, it looks like there was really a huge number of birds that were disposed, as I told, and the procedure, the administrative procedure of the avian influenza is built in this way that after one outbreak, there is a restriction zone around this outbreak where you can't actually have new production. So in practice, in the first half of this year, in these regions where the avian influenza were present, there was a lot of primary producers who were not really directly affected by the bird flu, but they couldn't start new production because they were in this restriction zone. So we observed on the market lower supplies of the poultry, and that's why these prices increased. Yes, but we can't say that the same scenario will be present in the next month because we don't know what will be going on with this bird flu.
That is true, but what we know is that it's ending. The period of bird flu is ending later and starting earlier already in the season. So the impact for sure will be bigger than previous years.
It should be because normally, let's say normal, because it's not normal, it's a virus, yes. But normally, where in previous year when there was avian influenza outbreaks in Poland, it was like from November to March. It was the bird flu season, and we had between 30 to 60 outbreaks. So it was like normal. And after this, after the March, after 3 months, Poland regained this avian influenza-free status. So it was like regular cycle, let's say. But now this year it is a little bit different because we had a really long avian influenza season in Poland. The last outbreak was in August, in the mid of August. So actually in the middle of the summer. Actually, so very strange. And we just had, I think, not only about 1 month and a half of break, and then we have another outbreak. So it will bring some market turbulence.
I understand. Maybe with Darius Goszczynski, we will talk more about what's going on and the preparations that companies can make to avoid or at least support in any direction. We have also questions from the audience. What is the origin of the feed used in Poland, and which are the most important? Is that a question that you can take, or should we?
Yeah, okay. Actually, the feed for poultry, not only in Poland but in general, is based on grains and soybean in general. And about 1/3 of feed sources in Poland for poultry is soy, 100% imported from different, mainly from South American, and another 1/3 is our grains. So Poland is also a big grains producer.
Okay.
So they're with domestic origin mostly, and the rest are minerals and some added.
Okay. So it's half Polish, of a third Polish, and the rest is
yes, 2/3 of Polish.
2/3 Polish.
Yes, and 1/3 of is a soybean.
Okay. Well, to the audience, thank you for giving us that question, and please keep them coming. We will bring your questions into the conversation. So that is very, very interesting. Before we go over to the next movie, maybe a question about poultry consumption. And one of the slides that you had earlier on was about 77 kilogram meat per person, right?
Yeah.
In total,
yeah.
yes. And you see some slight changes over the years, yes. And you see that poultry is getting bigger, and is taking a bit over from pork. But I saw that the growth was bigger than the total decline of the pork.
Yeah.
So in total, people eat more meat, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, it was a general trend in Poland that, as I told, Poles are meat lovers. So we have one of the biggest pork consumption all over the world, even. But in general, the increase of poultry consumption in Poland is due to different aspects, because poultry is actually really cheap type of meat. compared to ready meat, beef or pork. It is easy to cook, convenience also.
Okay.
And what more, it is also considered as a low fat, and we want to be fit and without extra kilo in our bodies, so we look for the protein that are with the low fat level.
Exactly.
But we see also changes, especially in bigger cities, because generally Europeans, people in Europe, starting to limit the consumption of the meat in total, but they start to limit it firstly from starting with red meat, yes, as it is considered not so healthy.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a health trend actually.
Yeah,
as well. Okay, and if you look a little bit further on that topic, meat replacements are also entering the market, not only in Western Europe but here as well. You see some changes at least in the shops. Do you also see in the numbers any changes already?
Yes, actually plant-based meat alternatives are really increasing popularity in Poland because of this consumer trends connected with vegans, flexitarians, people, and the need to think about the environmental issues connected with the meat production. But what we should think about numbers. Actually, we estimate that the plant-based market alternatives market is worth about $500 million of Polish zloty. So compared to poultry, worth of poultry market is it's a niche, let's say, but very dynamic, and because I think looking for the global trends, so the increase of the population number in all over the world and the need for more protein sources, I think that this trend will be stronger and stronger. So, but when we think about the replacement of the plant-based products, it's rather present in red meat, yes, because the form of hamburgers, of some sausages is maybe easier and more friendly for consumers in Poland also. But it is predicted that we find some structure and texture and taste of this plant-based replacement products, let's say. It's a challenge still. But it's more present in this red meat products, not in poultry.
Exactly. So it will not have such a big impact on the.
We will have, but not such a big, yes. Although there are some very interesting products like eggs based on plants, or nuggets based on plants. Very interesting, but still, it's a niche.
Yeah. Understand. Okay, thank you very much for that short explanation to your presentation. We later on will see you back in the program with the final discussion. But for now, we go back to Caroline Spaans, who visited the poultry processor Storterboom in Poznan. We will now go to the first interview with Johan Knapp, Manager of Operations in Poland for Storterboom. He will talk about the reasons for Storterboom to enter the Polish market. Before the interview, Caroline was given a tour in both the added value plant of Storterboom, in Komorniki, as well as in the poultry slaughterhouse Storterboom Hamrol in Kotowo. You will see images of the tour during the interview.
Thank you very much for showing us around today. It was very interesting.
No problem.
But could you also tell me maybe a little bit more about how and why Storterboom started on the Polish market? Because Storterboom came in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. But what was the reason for it?
Correct. We started here in 2004. Main aim was because we want to grow in Europe, of course, and we saw that Poland came out as best option. And why? Because of course of the space, development on the market was possibilities on the market, of course, availability of labor at that moment, and cost price advantage. That were the main reasons why we started here.
And how much has Stortebom grown in these last 17 years?
Yeah, to give you some figures, we started slaughtering in 2007 when we have around 60,000 birds a day in Kosovo in our slaughter plant, and on this moment we do around 280,000 birds a day.
Which makes it 1.6 million birds per week.
Correct. Yeah, this is what we're doing now. Yeah.
And you're working with 100 suppliers as well?
Yes, we have the same what happened with the grow of slaughtering is happened with the suppliers. From the beginning, we started with suppliers, and they are still with us. So we do probably something good, and they profit also from the grow in the sector, of course, and they are still with us. Yeah, and they are situated in a radius of 80 kilometers around the factory in this area. Yeah, correct.
And this factory was opened in 2019, at least the part where the processing for the retail is, the further processing as it's called, I think.
Yeah, that's correct. We are sitting now in Komuniki, in the added value plant, as we call it. This plant, we do around 500 tons of meat with raw materials from our slaughter plant Kosovo. And we deliver, Polish retail markets and some West European markets. Yes, correct.
And are the advantages that made you go to the Polish market at the time still here? Because when talking about labor, for example, we can also hear about labor shortages on the Polish market.
Yeah, that is completely changed. On that moment, it was quite easy to find labor. On this moment, it's a matter of keeping your labor in, because if you look in the surrounding of Poznan, where you have 1 or 2% unemployment, you need to have a good partner also concerning labor. We have at this moment 6 agencies who deliver different kind of people. We work with around 200 Polish people, I think, to give you an example, 200 Ukrainian people, and the rest is from Asian or other nations. And it's difficult to keep them. We do our best to pay them enough to keep them in, but it's a challenge.
So the price difference between the Netherlands and Poland is also getting smaller.
I think labor is not only a Polish problem, and for sure not in our industry, what is not so sexy and as most other industries to work for, but the price difference is still there, because also in Holland and Germany is growing labor cost. Maybe not 3 times, 4 times as it was in the past. It's now around the half of the cost compared to Holland, for instance.
We stay for a moment with Stortebom and the interview with Caroline Spaans with Jan Nepp, Manager Operations in Poland for that company. In the next interview, they talk about the place of Poland in the European and global poultry production, as well as the impact of COVID and avian influenza, also known as the bird flu. Last season, there were a large amount of outbreaks of avian influenza in Poland. Estimations are that it affected at least 10% of the primary production. The interview was recorded just before the first outbreak of the season in Poland was confirmed.
Poland is the biggest producer and exporter of poultry in the European Union. In the beginning of 2019, we could still see a growth, although relatively small, but at least 4% growth. After that, we had both avian influenza and we had corona. What was the impact of both of these on the poultry market?
If I look back at the COVID and the avian flu time, avian flu is something that always comes back again. It was a difficult time. For sure, on one side, you see a significant increase of raw material prices. And on the other hand, we saw, because combination of corona and avian flu, stabilizing sales price and even lower sales prices. Why? Closing of quick service restaurants, closing of HoReCa, closing of a lot of shops, and that gives that the price is getting stable. We as Stortebom react on it by slaughtering, bringing less meat on the market to survive, let's say it in this time. If I look at the situation on the European market, where we have in Holland, Germany, and also in France, in West Europe, let's say, we have still the discussion about animal welfare. We have discussion about slowly growing chicken, so less square meters with chicken in West Europe. And still in Poland, gives Poland the opportunity to grow still. So I'm not afraid for the future in Europe for Poland, no.
For Europe, but how do you see the role of Poland on a global scale?
I think some times of the year we can always profit from the situation if the markets are open to export and to have less pressure on the European market. So I think there will be always some sales outside Europe. And the most important is, I think, first the Polish market itself. There is a lot of competition going on. I think also what is important that we all want to pay for a healthy piece of meat, and still I think that chicken have the imago of very cheap meat, and that we need to change a little bit. For good meat, we need to pay a little bit.
But also because Poland is the biggest producer, as we said, but globally we can see the US, we can see Brazil, we can see Ukraine. What is the role of Poland or the place of Poland in this global poultry production?
You started to talk about European market. I think Poland is, we are 800 kilometers from Holland. We are very close to the German market, very close to the French market. I think with the possibilities in the country like Poland, I think we can play still, and we do already play a big role in this, and it will come back.
Our next guest is Mr. Dariusz Goszczynski, Director General of the National Poultry Council of Poland, also the Krajowa Rada Drobiarstwa Izby Gospodarcza.
Correct.
I'm saying it good, yes?
Yes.
Okay. This organization associates almost all the largest producers and exporters of poultry. For many years, it has been promoting poultry on the international and on third country markets.
That's also correct.
That's also correct. Good. That's good to hear that. Hello, welcome, and glad that you could join us today and share some light on this topic. You represent a very important organization in Poland. Let's first start with the recent news about the bird flu, avian influenza. What is the impact? How do you look at this crisis?
Yeah, the bad news. In September, we were able to be announced as a free from avian influenza country. It was in September, now November, and we are losing this status. So that's bad because this have an impact on our export potential. So at the moment we have about 7 outbreaks, but we're afraid that this is not the end of avian influenza in that season. So let's see how this disease will develop. We do hope that our farmers, our producers, with their best in protection their facilities, thinking about biosecurity measures, as well as our veterinary inspection.
You talk about the impact on the export. We are only at the beginning of the new outbreak, yes. So it's very difficult to say where it will go. But can you refer to previous outbreaks? What is then the impact?
Well, with European Union, this is not a big problem because the regionalization is on the zones where outbreak appears. But with third country, in some third countries, we don't have agreements on regionalization, so we are just blocked. In some countries like Hong Kong, like Singapore, we have agreements, so it's easier to collaborate.
Okay. But still, it has an impact.
For sure.
What can you do about something like this? And what is the state of the farms in Poland compared to other countries? Are preparations made? Is it in the course of being made? How do you look at the market?
Well, we don't have a big impact on the movement of wild birds.
Yes.
They are just from place to place, and that's it. All what we can do just to put a pressure on our producers to increase biosecurity measures to protect their facilities from this virus. That's it. So we are in direct contact with our veterinary inspection, and we are discussing about measures, about activities, what we can do, informing our producers, but also put new additional requirements.
Okay.
That's what we can do.
Yeah. And what are your members asking from you in this situation?
Well, we are in direct contact with all our members. We inform about new outbreaks and impact, for example, for third country relations. So we directly inform them about consequences. We are exchanging views, what we can do about additional activities, and we are also in contact with producers, with farmers to be sure that they understand how important is strictly implement all biosecurity measures.
You informing is then is a key, I think. Yes?
Absolutely.
Okay. Over to some other topics, maybe less related to the bird flu. Investment climate in the sector and the challenges for the primary producers in Poland. Could you tell something about that?
Well, when analyzing investment climate, we should take into account everything what's happened in recent years. COVID-19, avian influenza, for sure those factors has a significant impact on investment climate. If we add to this really strong impact on production costs regarding feed costs. All those factors shows that in 2019, 2018, investment climate was much better than is now. But I understand that if you want to develop, if you want to go further, we must invest, we must look for new solution. And when we talk about primary production, investment in biosecurity measures, equipment to have on the highest possible levels biosecurity enforced, this is very, very important. And if we think about future, everything what's is associated with F2F strategy, new requirements regarding animal welfare, regarding sustainable production, we may observe that this would require some investment in the future.
Because when we listened to the presentation of Magdalena, we also heard that there is a concentration of the bigger farms. Yes, so I understand that the smaller farms are more or less leaving the market or being taken over by the larger farms.
For sure, if we're talking about biosecurity, implementation of biosecurity measures, they're on the higher level than on the very small farm. But I think that there's also room for those smaller farms in Poland, taking into consideration consumer expectations regarding organic production, free-range production.
I was wondering if that's the trend. If there's to increase the scale, then it should be easier to implement all those bio measures. But you say, well, there's still a mixed market. Yes,
I think it's going to be like this.
I understand. Okay. For many years, relatively low production costs in Poland. How do you expect that competitive advantage actually that Poland has? How do you expect that to continue in the coming period?
I don't think that low production cost was only our competitive advantage. Low production cost and good quality. Polish poultry sector invested in recent years millions in new production lines, in quality. Therefore, we are able to achieve new export markets. Since 2012, we were able to increase our productivity by 50%. At the same time, I'm sure that we are able to increase significantly our quality. So if we're talking about advantages of Polish poultry, we must think about productivity and quality.
Right, right. But increasing 50%, that's quite a lot. Yeah, 50.
Since 2012.
Yeah. And then basically a question that was connected to the previous one, with increasing the scale.
Production potential.
Right. If you increase the potential, how much room is there still left? Is all the potential now used, or is it?
At the moment, we may observe that our production potential on the slaughterhouses and processing companies is not used in 100%, due to lack of supply from primary level. So there is still space to develop primary production. Of course, it's difficult to predict when it's going to happen, taking into account COVID-19, avian influenza. For sure, we have still room and slaughterhouses and processing level. We may expect further development in primary production.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. So basically, there's a line. You have from farm to fork. I tell it in my own words, and you see that there is still capacity in the production side. Yes.
That's, of course, is connected with that demand from the world markets. If our processors will be able to reach new markets, for sure this supply from primary production will follow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that for sure will be a discussion that we'll have later on in the group discussion here with people with Harm, actually from Storteboom. What are the main issues of the latest developments in the European policy? And that relates also to a question from the audience. And maybe it's good to mention that here right now. Does the Polish industry have potential to grow under the farm to fork strategy / Green Deal, which will be implemented? Question mark. Especially due to the origin of the feed, and if that is an issue to grow, what kind of direction will the market have to develop itself when it's hampered by that Green Deal?
First of all, it's very difficult to predict what's going to be implemented under F2F strategy. What is missing in the discussion, this is impact assessment. Normally, together with a new strategy, impact assessment should be put on the table to let us know what we could expect after implementing that scenario or another other scenario. We don't know. We cannot see any impact assessment. First reports appeared, but this is still not full image of full picture of this F2F strategy. What we could read is impact assessment prepared by USDA, which in every scenario. This report clearly stated that we will lose competitiveness and our production potential. So that doesn't look optimistic. We may expect new requirements regarding animal welfare, regarding sustainable production. In every discussion, we are talking about sustainable production, but what does it mean? We don't know. This definition hasn't been developed yet. So we are in the front of discussion about impact of F2F strategy. At the moment, it's difficult to clearly state what's gonna happen. We are closely collaborate with AVEC Association, which is our EU organization, which gathered representative of every EU country, and together we are working on the scenarios and about our position regarding F2F strategy. But it's difficult to at this stage. It's difficult to precisely say what's going to happen.
Okay, I understand what you say. You say an impact study was needed to understand what is. One second. We'll come back to your remark. Yes, but you are involved in all these discussions in the European Union that are preparing the Green Deal also for your industry. So you know more or less which direction it's going, I guess.
For sure, we may expect impact, as I said, animal welfare, antibiotics, and reduction of impact on carbon footprints, etc. So we may expect that our industry also gonna be impacted, even though Poultry is quite on the good position regarding impact on the climate. It's rather low compared with other sectors, but still we may expect investment and costs regarding implementation of F2F strategy. What is important? Okay, we're discussing about increasing requirements at the EU territory, but what about the imported products? Are they going to meet the same criteria or not? Whenever we ask this question, we cannot hear exact answer.
Okay.
Usually we hear, it's difficult because this WTO, etc.
Right.
If we increase requirements, if we increase cost of production, and we won't be able to require the same from imported products, this policy won't be able to achieve their goals. Thinking about climate change, because this is going to be something which encourage Brazilian, Ukrainian, other producers to increase their production in lower standards than European one.
You say it's not all that green, especially not for us. But do you expect that you still be able to change the rules and make them in such a way that there are all those measures that you expect to be in there, that they will come in there? Just like when it's from third countries coming meat, it has the same requirements as our meat. Do you expect the European Union to implement all those?
We don't afraid discussion about requirements about animal welfare and sustainable production, but we have a right and obligation to require the same from imported products, and we try to clearly state this message.
Yeah, clear. And do you also see some opportunities in there? For instance, I know that later on in this program we will have more information from Storteboom, who has a quality mark on all the meat. It's called the 1 ster beter leven keurmerk. We will hear more about that later. You notice that clients require that more and more. Is that something that you see as a chance, and that you say, well, that's a good part of the Green Deal?
Okay, we always try to be positive, but at this stage it's difficult to talk about details, since we don't know exact direction of this policy. For sure, impact regarding food quality schemes, quality and consumer expectation is important, and we have to take into consideration consumer expectation and follow them. So better leven system, free range farming, organic farming, for sure this is something which will be developed in Europe.
Right. You are representing the National Poultry Council in Poland. For sure, this is not only in Poland an issue. This is an issue in more poultry producing countries. Are there any similar-minded organizations in different countries in the EU that you go together hand in hand, striving for discussions for the Green Deal?
As I said, we are working together under AVEC, AVEC organization. But a part of this, we have a bilateral discussions in June. We had a meeting in France, a meeting organized by a French organization, and I represented Polish organization. Colleague from Netherlands, and we together discussed also about F2F expectations, but also all those problematic issues regarding poultry sector.
Yeah, and if you are in contact with your largest members, the big producers, what do they say about these developments? Are they only saying, okay, we should close, which I can understand, that you say we should close the borders for meat that's produced under different circumstances, but are they also seeing it as a chance, or how do they look at it?
They worry because we don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
We try to present our position, we try to ask questions in the public debate, but still we don't know much about details, so it's difficult to transfer this knowledge to our members.
Yes,
We are preparing scenarios and discussing about different scenarios, but which scenario will be accurate?
Yeah, you don't know. Yeah. Okay, it's just simply a lack of information at the moment. Yes. Okay. We have another question. That's consumer expectations of the poultry meat in Poland. Could you tell a little bit more about that?
Yes, they are changing. For sure, consumer in Poland expect fair price.
Yeah.
And food must be safe. This is for sure. But especially when we talk about poultry. But we may observe consumer expectations regarding different standards like free-range production. Organic farming, maybe not yet. It will develop for sure. I observe what's going on in other European countries. So I believe that in Poland it's also will develop, but at the moment organic production I think is less than 0.5 total Polish production. So it's not big yet. Maybe because of price and maybe because of high requirements which must be met by producers. Free range production is this is a system which is developing much faster now.
Right. We actually had a program together with the Dutch Embassy on bio producers in general in Poland, and indeed similar figures on the total market we discussed here at this table. But nothing really different for poultry producers, right? It is coming, but it's still
let's see what they may gain under F2F strategy.
Right. So that might be very positive for
positive signal
in your sector as well. Yes?
For development, but we must be aware that organic production is much more expensive than conventional one. So this should be reflected also in prices. And I'm not sure whether big majority of our consumers will be can't afford just can afford to pay for a much more expensive poultry, organic poultry.
Right.
Maybe so this is an obstacle.
Yeah, maybe not for the masses yet. Yes.
That's for sure.
Yeah, understand. Okay, thank you very much for this moment. We'll see you back in maybe in a few moments in the panel discussion. But before we do that, we will go to the final part of the interview with Johan Knapp, Manager of Operations in Poland for Storterboom. The topics of this interview are reduction of use of antibiotics and the presence of salmonella in the poultry sector in Poland. Before the interview, Caroline visited also one of the primary producers for Storterboom. This is a poultry farm that is labeled with a 1-star quality mark for animal welfare. In the Netherlands, this is called 1-ster beter leven keurmerk. You will see an image of this farm during the interview.
One of the things we discussed as well, Johan, today, when we were having a look around and also having a look around with all the poultry in the farms, is the issue of use of antibiotics and the salmonella in the poultry sector in Poland. Well, I have two questions about it. Is there some sort of cooperation within the sector on these issues, and how is Storteboom itself dealing with it?
To start with, the last thing is in Netherlands, or Holland, how we call it, Storteboom, we started already very early with our own programs, and this is combined with reduction of antibiotic and salmonella. We have a monitor program already from 2004, and we implemented immediately in 2007 when we started full slaughtering over here. This monitor allows us also to react immediately if we have it in the complete supply chain. We do it from, let's say, from feed till meat, and this program gives us very good results, and we have I think still the advantage compared to our competitors in Poland. Yes, this is there.
And is the sector working together also to reduce the use of antibiotics or to reduce the amount of found salmonella? Because it's not only, it's not only hurting the human health, but also hurting, I guess, the image of Poland as poultry producer.
First place, we looking at Storteboom and our own supply chain to do it as good as possible. Second thing is what we see in the sector is last year it was a lot of issues concerning exporting to England, even closing. That gives pressure on the sector in Poland itself also. Other factories, competitors are looking now more and more carefully to the complete supply chain. Organization within Polish Poultry Association, I don't see. It's very difficult to execute procedures and programs regional in the province, and yeah, we do our own thing. And vertical integration says something about how you. It's more a matter of having the know-how in the vertical integration, and doing these programs already for many years, because salmonella is not something what you can kill in a few months or with starting tomorrow and it's gone. Salmonella is something from the long term and will come, and will always you need always to fight against this, and this know-how within our group is there, and yes, but it still needs every time attention, and what we see. Yeah, why vertical integration? We, as Storteboom, we have good partners in the integration, as you call it. We are not, we don't have our own feed mills. We don't have our own hatchery, but we have years of cooperation with the same trustful suppliers, and we are committed and depending on each other. So I think you can call this also a kind of integration.
And final question, is there still room for growth in Poland?
Yes, after rain is always sunshine. So after COVID and after avian flu, there are always coming better times. And if I look at the Polish industry, yes, totally, I already mentioned before, West European going to less bird on the square meter. We go to animal welfare, we go to concept chicken, and that gives chance for Polish market, poultry market. However, what you see also in Poland, and it goes rapidly, also the request is coming and the market is coming for concept birds. So yes, I think it will come. Okay. And there is a big place for Poland still to be number one of export in Europe.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much, Johan.
Okay. You're welcome.
As the last part of this program, we have a panel discussion with all the participants. We will use this opportunity to zoom in on the different views we heard today about the developments in the poultry sector in Poland. Also, there is a possibility to ask your questions. Please do that in the comments, and could you mention the person that you want to address the question to? That is helpful for us. We already had several ones, so please keep them coming. Let me swiftly introduce the panelists to you. We have Harm Laros, Managing Director of Two Sisters Storteboom in the Netherlands, who joins us via a video connection. Harm, welcome in the program. Magdalena Kowalewska, Senior Analyst Food and Agri of the BNP Paribas Bank, and Darius Koszczynski, Director General of the National Poultry Council. Yes, again correct? Yes. Correct. Thank you very much. I would like to start with Harm. We haven't seen you in the program yet, but still, I thought of some questions that came in the program during the discussions that we had. For instance, with Darius Koszczynski, about the capacity in the whole production line. From Darius, we heard that sometimes from the producer side, the growers, the producer side, sometimes do not produce enough for the industry. How do you see that if you look at the whole process from producing to delivery in the shops?
If you look in the total production chain, so let's say from farmer to shops, what we have seen when we started in Poland, there was space for capacity, production capacity. Then the production growth and the primary production also increased a lot. At that time, there was more, and then I'm talking about, let's say, 5 years ago, more primary production than a processing capacity. But the big producers have also invested a lot in production capacity, in terms of line speed, new facilities. And what we see now is what we have heard also from Darius, that there is more production capacity than primary production at this moment.
Right. And that is a problem for the industry, such as your company?
I don't see it as a problem, because bottom-wise volume is not our main driver. But you need to earn some money, and from time to time we use the slogan "less is more."
Okay. Yeah, but I understand what you say. But could you? Does that mean that you're okay with the whole situation, or would you say, well, ideally for our production, and could you fill that in?
Of course, from production perspective, it's always better to have full production, of course. Yeah. But bottom line, it's more important that there is a strong balance between demand and supply.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And that at the moment is in balance, you would say.
It's relatively in balance. That's right. And given the increase of consumption for poultry meat, especially broiler meat in our case, I see possibilities for the future.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, clear. I want to stay with you for a second because the two guests at the table have had their say already in this program. But could you share a light on the recent news of the outbreak of the new cases of bird flu? What does it mean for Storteboom?
Yeah, basically every outbreak of bird flu is shocking us. I'm working in Storteboom for 20 years, so I was already in the business in 2003 when we had a massive outbreak of avian flu in Holland. What reduced in total the poultry production with roughly 40% for almost 1 year. We have seen similar situation in the high density area in Poland this year. So hopefully hopefully it will stay with a couple of cases and will not break out as it did in spring.
And could you do anything? I mean, could you at a high density area is a high density area, right? You don't change that.
That's right. So you need to deal with that. Firstly, as already mentioned also today, biosecurity is very, very important. And otherwise, what I see in the approach, the difference in approach from Holland to Poland is when we see in Holland a big outbreak, then the even small country, the Netherlands, is split in compartments, and from that time it's not allowed to drive from the one compartment to the other. And that's what I miss a bit in the Polish approach, that slaughterhouses can drive easily 400-500 kilometers to the country if they wish to pick up some birds, and that's a risk for spreading the virus.
Darius, you mentioned already these zones, but this is something different.
As far as I know, in the Mława region, there was such a restriction that it was impossible to move, and I just support that approach. That only with strict measures we are able to overcome this virus, these outbreaks. Otherwise, we will observe more and more outbreaks.
Yeah, and Magdalena, do you see also, maybe both markets? How do you see many difference in approach?
Actually, these approaches are quite similar in the whole world, yes, because there is OIE, so this multinational organization, World Organization of Animal Health, that these bases are the same, yes, but maybe these practical aspects are a little bit different. But as I know, I think that Harm was talking about the situation without the avian influenza, when we can move between different plants and different zones, let's say, even if there is no avian influenza. So, but it's I think that the bases are the same. Actually, there are no really a lot of difference.
OIE rules, the OIE rules, but also we have to follow EU regulations, which strictly describe competencies and procedures which needs to be informed whenever avian influenza outbreak appears. And as I said, we are in favor of strict, fast, very quick implementation of all those measures to avoid spreading this virus on other farms.
Yeah, and is that difficult to implement in the whole market, or is everybody with the same noses in the same direction?
I tell you what, as far as I know, veterinary inspection have prepared risk analysis documents, and maybe it's not relevant to implement all very strict rules in that place where there's only one farm, and implement all those strict rules in that regions, places like Mława, like Żuromin, where there's high density of farms.
Yeah. Understand. Okay, so it's the total market that you should look at. Yes, understand. Okay, we discussed with Harm also the full production of for the industry. Magdalena, we also saw your presentation. Poultry production has grown rapidly in the recent years. Do you see that further grow, the total growth?
Actually, the Polish poultry sector has developed really rapidly, especially after the association with the European Union. But I think that this huge increase in the poultry production is limited because we are now the biggest one, first producer, first exporter. And of course, there is still a room for the development, but we can see also that global trends, that in general, the poultry meat consumption, production will increase globally, but mostly not in Europe, but mostly in Asia, in Africa, where the population number will increase. So they will need additional proteins, additional meat proteins, animal proteins. But in Poland, I think that there are some forecasts that this year, 2021, according to IRGZ, so it's a Polish Agriculture Institute, they predict that this can be a first year with the decrease of the production. Yes, so it's of course the reason of COVID, of avian influenza, but now we can talk about the stabilization of the production size, and but I think that we will be still the the main producer in European Union, but maybe this production will be stable. But I think that we will earn more money because this will change into favor of animal welfare. Maybe this free range, this let's say poultry products with added value. So with this, with the story, with the happy meat, happy animals, with some other sustainable production. I think that this is the direction of the development of the sector. So it will mean, maybe it will mean that we will produce a little bit less or the same value, but volume, but the value of the production, I believe that it will increase still in the next years, not only 1 or 2 years, but in the, I think, next
in a couple of
longer
years.
term.
Yes.
Yes.
I fully agree what Magdalena said about situation. We'll see. Let's see what's going to happen in the last few months of this year. Whether it's going to be decrease or I think it's more or less going to be similar level as in previous year. But we need to follow consumer expectations. We need to develop food quality schemes, free range, other system just to meet consumer expectation in Poland and European market. And we also must take into consideration requirements on African markets, Asian markets, just to have a space to operate there.
Yeah. Harm, I would like to also give the floor to you. How you see that of course, we discussed it already earlier on, that you say quality is sometimes over quantity. But do you also see an end in the growth of the poultry production in Poland?
No, I don't see an end on the short term. I think we will not have double-digit growth next years, but for sure there are opportunities where Poland is the biggest producer. We know that Western European countries are going down with stocking density and have limited or maybe even no access to building new farms, etc., etc. And combined with a higher increase or an increase of consumption, there will be a need of protein, and Poland can perfectly fill that gap.
Yeah. As you say, Magdalena, you say it's locally, it will be locally fulfilled, those extra needs in Africa and Asia. Harm says we can also do that in Poland.
Of course, but we have to also think about the consumption changes in trends. Let's say consumption trends in Europe, because there is the trend of eating less meat. Yes, so of course I think it will not be like half yes of the consumption, but in some somehow it will. The potential of the development of this European market is, I think, limited. Yes, and especially when we look for the demographic changes, that the Europeans are elder, and the number of people living in Europe will decrease. Actually, these are the numbers. These are the official numbers. So the need for the protein will be lower. But still, I believe that we as a consumers, we will look for this additional value for not only in the meat as a product, yes, not only in the fillet or something, but we will look for the whole value chain. So we will now consumers ask, what is the feed for the poultry? What is the original of this feed? Yes, we had this question in our meeting a few minutes before. Actually, they ask what is the transport for how it looks like. Yes, so these are the questions that are present in the public discussion, and I think that the industry, actually all participants of this market will have to somehow answer it with the products, with the type of of the actually final products even, because we didn't discuss this changes in the poultry products, because that is, I think, another topic which we can.
We can I don't broadcasting with that.
I don't. Yes, we can do another broadcasting about this, but I don't want to open another, of course, topics. But of course, I think that in Poland we will see there is a room for increases, especially if we will have the economic crisis or economic, let's say, turbulences, because poultry is cheap. Yes, it's a cheap source of the meat, and it's acceptable for a lot of people. So if you have to, prepare a dinner for your family and you have limited budget, you will look what you choose and what you put to your.
Okay, so you would say in that way, economic hardship would increase the appetite for poultry meats. Yes. Yeah.
I do agree with analysis regarding EU perspective, but at the same time, we must remember that world population is going to increase.
Yeah.
So they also will look for a good source of protein.
Yeah.
Therefore, I see the space for Polish poultry on world market, African, Asian, and other markets.
Yeah. Harme, a question to you. You mentioned that there is limited space in the Netherlands to increase farms. Do you have you heard of any Dutch companies wanting to come to Poland for production, or do you see that as a possibility, as an option?
That's hard to say, because if the primary production will go down in Holland, you will not go to Poland and to catch the birds and to bring them to Holland for slaughtering or processing over here. At this moment, 2 Dutch based companies are active in Poland, and I do not hear any rumors that a third one is entering the Polish market.
No. Okay. We also discussed here the Green Deal with Darius, and the unexpected outcomes so far, and impact that it would have on the processors and the producers, of course. How do you look? How do you look at this problem from the point of view of Two Sisters Storterboom? Do you see it as an opportunity, or do you see it as a challenge?
That's a good question. I don't have a crystal ball on my desk over here. Otherwise, I would like to use that. And so far, it's a wide program, but the impact is not clear, as Darius already said. So what will happen? We need to see that as a fact, because I think we don't have choice. So the question is, how are we going to deal with that? And from that point, you need to look into to challenges for the company.
But some companies also see it as an opportunity to do something with the product, to make changes. You are yourself working on the program One Ster Beter Leven keurmerk. Is that with that in mind already, or and do you see that as a direction, or is that way too early to discuss at the moment?
Yeah, if you look into the One Ster Beter Leven project, it's fully driven by animal welfare. Has nothing to do with footprint, because the footprint is much more worse compared to the regular poultry we produce now in Europe.
Okay. Yeah, so that's besides the question. Understand. Okay.
Yeah, what's interesting when we talk about organic production, we must be aware that organic production will have a greater impact on the carbon footprint than conventional production.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's could be difficult to find this balance between this animal welfare coming from organic production with impact on climate change.
Yes. Well, I believe that the last word has not been said about the Green Deal here today. Yes, that is clear. Okay. Something else. Brexit. We also saw the figures from Magdalena on the export market, Great Britain. This export market will not fall off, is not falling off due to Brexit. There is still a market, but what is the impact of Brexit?
Actually, Brexit it's a very important thing for Poland because UK is our main trade partner, and we have heard that after the Brexit, at the beginning of this year, when it started to be in life, yes, there were some problems, yes, with the transport, with this practical aspects of the Brexit. And we can see it in numbers because in the first quarter of this year there was a decrease in the export of the poultry meat from Poland to UK. But also we have heard that another partners like Ukraine, a very huge company from Ukraine, they came into this market, and they actually now they sell their products. So of course UK started to look all over the world for the suppliers of the poultry products, and so they look to Ukraine, to Brazil, because they are actually cheaper, yes. But now we don't see really huge turbulence with this export, but we will see the export results after this I think year, yes, because everything could happen. Yeah.
Right.
But it's positive that UK decided to postpone implementation of all those SPS rules. They realized that they are not able to implement all those new rules and maintain the same flow, the same transportation, logistic issues. Therefore, they decided to postpone. This is also quite a big challenge for our veterinary inspection, to assure proper quantity of inspectors to accept, to control all those transports.
Yeah, understand. And from the processor's point of view, Harm, what do you notice in your own production about Brexit?
We see different things. The beginning of this year, we have seen a lower export into the UK due to all the paperwork and administrative extra things. UK has an economic problem itself in terms of labor shortages, etc., which has led to a lower primary production in the UK of more than 10%. The UK is still importer for chicken meat. So from that point of view, we see an increase of export into the UK. But the big threat still is when they are going to apply with the veterinarian documents, because I think that will be a big mess, leading to a disruption in the logistics.
And what is then your strategy? Are you saying as a company, for us, the UK is not a market anymore, we're going to supply to different markets? Or are you going to apply for the documents with the veterinaries?
I can advise companies who have a small export in the UK to follow the strategy, leave it like it is, and we look for other markets. As you know, we have a UK-based mother company, and UK is a big export market for us, both from Holland and the Polish business. We have worked with a full team for all the paperwork, including the veterinarian aspects of it. And as far as I can see, we are prepared for that, and can handle then the documents.
Yeah, especially when you're based in the UK, that's important, I think. Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much for that one. Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
The other point I want to add to that is, in case of bird flu, for example, then you have a different point, because then the UK is outside Europe with the restrictions from countries who are hit by bird flu.
And what is the advantage or disadvantage for Storterboom there?
The disadvantage is then for every exporter in the UK that you cannot export from that area the meat into the UK.
How do you look at COVID on the market since 2020 here in Europe? Is that a big disruption for your company?
Yes, it was a disruption for our company. I don't want to say a big disruption because we have a very wide spread of customers in retail, in HoReCa, in food service, in industry, etc., etc. So we have seen an increase in some segments, but also a decrease in some segments. But bottom line, it has had an impact on our company. Yes.
Okay. And how is that here in Poland?
Well, it was a really serious problem. Over 50% of Polish production is located in foreign markets. And after COVID-19, especially HoReCa was seriously harmed. And it was difficult to locate our products there. So we had a lot of problems, and we still have, even if all those restrictions were lifted. I'm sure that in Barcelona, Madrid, Rome, we couldn't observe as the same quantity of tourists as we observed before. So even without those restrictions, tourists didn't come in that season. We do hope that next season will be better.
Yeah. Magdalena, maybe some last words?
Yes, especially because of the vaccination and I think that even if the COVID will be present, which is the fact, this restrictions are limited, I think, and the situation will be better. So the meat consumption in different areas, so in the food service, in schools, in hospitals, in restaurants, in this fast food places should increase because people just want to meet, to go out, to eat different things, and also meat is the thing. And I think that COVID it was a really big issue for the whole food and agri industry, but actually we deal with this better than other industries. To say something positive.
Now on this positive note, it's a nice moment to finish this program. That's all we have time for today. I would like to thank the participants for joining in and for sending your questions. Johan Nap, Manager Operations of Two Sisters Storterboom in Poland, and from the Netherlands, Harmela Ros, Managing Director of Two Sisters Storterboom. Magdalena Kowalewska, Senior Analyst Food and Agri of the BNP Paribas Bank. Darius Koszczynski, Director General of the National Poultry Council of Poland. I would also like to thank Caroline Spaans, Agricultural Counselor at the Embassy of the Netherlands, the team of the Embassy, the team of the Netherlands Polish Chamber of Commerce, and the team of 24/7 Communications. It's been this third Agro Knowledge Circle video podcast, and this ends the series of 3 for this year. On the website of the Netherlands Embassy and BNP Paribas, you can find more information and reports on the poultry sector in Poland. And please don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube page of the Netherlands Polish Chamber of Commerce. This will keep you updated on all our events. My name is Elro van den Burg. Thank you for watching and have a nice afternoon.